Hi guys, this is the lesson for hot air balloons. Okay, so the basic idea is when a hot air balloon goes up in the air, you put in hot air to make it rise, and on the side of the balloon there's actually bags of sand tied to it that are weighing it down. So in the event that a balloon was going to crash, you could cut off those bags of sand and make the balloon rise a lot quicker than trying to put in hot air. Okay, so in this unit we're going to start to add in some positives and negatives. So to make this easier for you, we're going to think of anytime that you add sand, that's a negative. Anytime that you have hot air, that's something that's moving in the positive direction, okay? So you don't have to write any of this down. Go ahead and just watch a couple examples here, and then we'll put some in your notes. All right, so we're at 3 feet. So imagine my hot air balloon right now is hovering at 3 feet in the air. If I was to add bags of sand, that is adding something negative, and it would move my hot air balloon down. So if he's at 3 feet and he adds 5 bags of sand, that moves him down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He would end up at -2. Okay. So then, if I was at 3 feet, but I removed that sand, that would move him up. So we write that problem as 3 minus a -5. He was hovering at 3 feet above the ground. He was about to crash. So he removed that sand, and it made him rise a lot quicker than putting in hot air. Okay, so if I was at 3, when I take away a negative, it goes in the opposite direction of what it should, and I would count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would be at 8. Okay. So here's where it starts to get really tricky, is if I'm already in the negatives, again, just come back to that thinking. If it's supposed to be adding a negative, I keep going down. But if I take away a negative, that's the same as it bringing up, like adding positive air to my balloon. Okay. So if I'm at -4, you will have this number line in your notes to use too. Okay. So if I'm at -4 and I add 3 bags of air, adding air would move him up, and I would get to -1. Okay, so think about like if a hot air balloon went off the side of a cliff, so he's going like down towards water below. He was at -4, so when he added air, that brought him up to -1. Okay. If he's at -4 though, and then he adds more negatives, well, now they're both going in the same direction, so I can actually add them. He's at -4, and he added more negatives to him, and he got to -7. Okay, so notice the difference there. Even though it says add, I'm not actually adding them both in both examples. When he was at -4, by adding a positive number, it went in the other direction. Okay. It's only when I'm at a negative and I add more negatives that keeps bringing him down that I would get to a bigger negative answer. Okay. This last one's probably the hardest. He's at -4 and he removes 3 bags of sand. So if I cut off my sandbags instead of going in the negative direction, that's the same as this problem right here. When I remove sand, it brings it up just the same as adding. Okay, so in which case he was at -4, he removed that sand, that would raise him up to -1. Okay, these are just a couple examples to get you started. In your notes, you're going to have a lot more to look at and some practice to write down. I also have a number line like this for you to glue in your notes. Okay, just know that this is one strategy. So if you learned something in 5th grade for adding positives and negatives and you like whatever strategy that is better, you can use that. Today is just practice though with a hot air balloon. Okay, so if you like this analogy, feel free to use it. Or if you want to, you could turn the problems into like this with negatives and positives and use what other strategy you like better. Okay. We will also have next week to practice this too, so please don't stress out if you don't get it right away today. When I come back, we will have time in class to do a lot more practice together too.